Hello YouTube, and on today's video I'm going to be talking about this game right here. It's called Balan WonderWorld. So I picked this game up off of Amazon Prime Day sales. They had it for $20, and like always I had Amazon credit, so it was only like 10 bucks after that credit. And I'd heard a lot of mixed things about this game. I had watched one bigger YouTube channel's review of it, and that guy said it was the worst game he ever played. Meanwhile, I'd watched Pete Dorr's video on it. If those of you who don't know who Pete Dorr is, he's a huge retro game collector, huge game collector. He's got an insane collection. He mostly streams on Twitch nowadays, but he's been doing some YouTube videos, and he put out a video on this game, kind of a review, kind of a final thoughts video on it, and he did a speed run of this game as well. I think he was actually the first speedrunner for this game, and after watching both those videos, I knew I had to try this game at some point. I do want to say that I had played the demo before this came out. I played the demo that was released for this back in January, I think it was. I think the demo came out in January. And the demo for this game was awful. Okay, if you played this game's demo back when it released or back when it dropped, just know this game's like pretty different from the demo. So the big thing that I want to say that they drastically improved from the demo to release is they made the character's movement speed a lot faster, and that's a massive improvement. When I was playing the demo, I legitimately couldn't beat the first world. I was so dang bored. So if you played the demo and your big thing was it was too slow, just know that like it's not like that in the final version. They did improve the movement speed. And so I've played this game. I've only played halfway through it for the record and everything, and I don't think I'm actually going to beat it. Well, I don't think I'm going to beat this version of it, and we're getting into that reasoning why. But I do want to say that I've quite enjoyed this. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 game. I think it's a solid 6, maybe a 6.5, but that's still pretty good on my charts, you know. I think like a lot of people see like a 6 out of 10 and they freak out. They're like, oh my god, that's so horrible. But a 6 out of 10 just means it's okay, you know, it's pretty good. So I've written down a list of things that I dislike and things that I like about the game, and I figured I would just tell you guys about those things here. This isn't going to be a review though, because I don't feel like making a review on this game, but I do feel like talking about it as someone who didn't love it like Pete Dorr did, but I didn't hate it like the other guy did. I don't want to say the other guy's channel's name just because I'm going to say some kind of negative things about it, about some of the videos, some of the reviews I've seen on this game, because I do think some of the reviews are way too critical of this. So I'm not going to name drop any bigger YouTube channels. I know like no one from my channel would go and call those people out or anything. I'm not anywhere near those guys' popularity, but I just don't want to say anybody's channel names or anything. So but I do think that people have been a little bit too critical on this game. So I am going to be intersplicing some gameplay footage of this game, so that way you guys can get an idea of what the game is like and everything. So that way it's not just you guys staring at my face for, I don't know, however long I decide to talk about this. But yeah, so I have some notes that I've taken about the game that I wrote before making this video, and I'm going to just talk about them, and every couple minutes I'll cut to some gameplay, although the gameplay will be like interspliced or put over me talking, so you guys will still hear my audio, you know. So I'm gonna go through my dislikes first, because I do have actually written down more dislikes than likes. So we're gonna go through my dislikes. So the first thing is the camera. So this game, for those of you who don't know, is a 3D platformer, and 3D platformers have always had just not bad cameras, but 3D platformers have never had the greatest cameras. The reason why is because you have so much movement space in a 3D platformer as opposed to something like an action game or a first-person shooter. You know, in platformers you have so much action space, so much room to just move around and mess around that cameras just typically can't keep up with them. And this game's no exception. The camera, it's not bad. It's not like N64 levels or anything like that, but it's not as good as it could be. So I think the big thing that would improve the camera is just if they added being able to click down on the left thumbstick, on the right thumbstick, whichever thumbstick, and then just recentering it. That'd be a major improvement if they were to patch that in. I don't think this game's going to get any patches though, because this game kind of bombed really hard to my understanding, so I don't think this game's going to get any patchwork done from Square Enix, sadly enough. So the camera is not that great. My next problem is the frame rate. So as you guys can see, or you know, whatever, I am playing the Nintendo Switch version of this game. I knew that the graphics wouldn't be as good as the PS4 and Xbox One versions, but I went with the Switch version because I prefer my platformers on my Switch, you know. Platformers I just associate with Nintendo consoles, so I prefer them there. But had I known the frame rate was going to be this bad, I would not have picked this game up on Switch. So even in the demo, the frame rate wasn't that great, but it wasn't as bad. I didn't beat the demo. I probably should have beaten the demo now that I think about it. But yeah, the frame rate is just all over the place on this game. It cannot hold 30 FPS to save its life. It's just jumping all around, and it's incredibly poor. If you were to get this game, do not buy the Switch version. Just so you guys are aware, eventually I'm going to upgrade to the PS4, PS5 version. I'm not going to be finishing this game on Switch just because of the frame rate is so bad. I can handle 30 FPS, but when it's 30 FPS and very jittery, I can't do that. And yeah, it really sucks too because this game isn't that graphically intensive. I've seen far better looking games on the Switch. Like Doom 2016 looks way better on Switch than this game does. And Doom 2016, even though it has some frame stutter here and there, its frame rate is still nowhere near as bad as this game. I definitely get the feeling that the Switch port was a bit of an afterthought, which is a little bit disappointing. The next thing that I dislike about this game is the first world. The first world in this game is legitimately bad, okay? It's super boring, it's super basic, it's just uninteresting, okay? If I could, like, change one thing about this game as a whole, I would make, like, the second or the third world the first world, because they're just way more interesting in terms of the power-ups and the abilities that you get at your disposal. Especially the third world, there's some really cool stuff, but we're getting to that in a little bit. But yeah, so the first world in this game is super boring, but trust me, if you can just stick with the game through the first world, it gets a lot better right after it. The second thing not the second thing overall, but my other big problem with this game is that some power-ups can't jump. It feels like a sick joke by the developers. So the one thing this game has become really infamous about is that it has only one button for controls. You heard that right. It's only one button. Every button on your controller can basically play the game. And I'm fine with that. I've heard some people criticize this. I don't think that this is really something to riff on too much. A massive amount of games over the years have been made with just one button control schemes in mind, and you know, there's been a ton of really great ones. The ones that like come to my mind instantly are the 2D Sonic games. You know, those games were only made with one button in mind. I think one button is fine, but when you have these power-ups in a platformer that can't jump, it's just not fun using those ones. I tend to avoid the ones that you can't jump with. Like, they just feel so nerfed, and I know they're supposed to just be for combat and for helping you pick up collectibles and stuff, but that doesn't justify them. Those power-ups feel so worthless to me. And I'm calling them power-ups, even though I know that they're costumes or whatever. I'm calling them power-ups just because it's a simplified term, and I'm not going to, you know, intersplice the right gameplay to correlate with everything. And this goes into the one-button control scheme, though. It does go into one of my bigger minor annoyance with this game, and that's that every button is the confirm button on the menus. I kid you not. So if you press A to accept something, but then press B to go back, it actually accepts it. This probably sounds a little weird, but just understand that, like, if you are on an option in the menu and you press A to accept it, you're going to accept it. But if you press B to go back from it, you're going to accept it. It sounds a little strange, but when you play the game and get into a menu, you'd understand completely what I meant. Again, I don't understand why they were so bent on only using one button for this game. I don't know. But so that's the things I dislike. But again, like I said, there are some things that I do like about the game. So the first thing that I really dig about this game is the art style. For those of you who don't know, the game's characters and everything were designed by Naoto Ohshima, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And he's the same designer who made the original Sonic, who made Knights from Nights into Dreams, and all these beloved Sega characters. And this game screams of his art style, and I think the game looks good, you know. I think the game's art direction looks good. This is not a very pushing, graphically speaking. It's not a very graphically intense game, but I think the art style is good. I think a lot of I think the character and the costume designs, for the most part, are really good. There are some that I'm not too fond of, but for the most part, I think most of them look pretty cool. So the next thing that I like is the level design in this game. This is probably going to be a controversial opinion, actually, because when I see people talk about this game, they tend to say how basic the level design is, but I actually disagree. So after the second world, the game's levels become more open-ended, and they become far more interesting to explore and to experiment with the costumes. I've had quite a bit of fun just messing around with various costumes that you're not supposed to have or not supposed to get in a world, and just seeing what they do inside of a world. It's been quite a bit of fun, and surprisingly fun. And I think that it opens up the speedrun potential of this game immensely, because you can start to think of ways that you could use a costume to better, maybe not better, maybe better is not the right word for it, but you can think of ways to use a costume to get through segments of the game faster, and that's really appealing to me as a speedrunner. I do kind of want to look into speedrunning this game a bit, of course, with the PS5 version, not the Switch version. But yeah, so I think the level design is really interesting after the first two worlds, I would say. One thing that's really cool is in a lot of the urban environments and a lot of the urban levels, it's like the level will unfold in front of you. It's super cool. It reminds me a lot of Inception. If you've ever seen Inception, you know the scene in Inception where like the characters are walking around in the city, and then the city's just the road to the city is just coming down. I'm so bad at describing things. But yeah, it reminds me of that. It's super cool, kind of dreamlike in some ways, and I dig the level design. The next thing is I like the music in this game. So I think music's kind of a controversial thing, you know. I'm not a big music guy, but I enjoy the music in this game. The sound effects are very Nights-esque, so that's really cool for me to hear as well, as someone who's kind of a fan of Nights. So I enjoy the music. Lastly, and this is also probably going to be kind of a controversial opinion, is I like that this is a simple platformer. You know, I know that some people don't like simple games and everything, but I really enjoy simple 3D platformers. So, with most 3D platformers, I feel like they just try too many different things, and they just get too distracted from the core intent of the game, and that's platforming. This game, it's just basically all platforming. There is some QTEs and minigames and things like that, boss fights to break up some of the platforming, but predominantly it's just a 3D platformer. And I really dig that. It's got a decent sense of speed to it, and the power-ups are interesting and unique. And so, yeah, I think overall, if I were to give Balan a score of some kind, like I said, I would give it like a 6, maybe a 6.5. It's definitely not a 10 out of 10 game, and it's definitely not a game that everyone is going to like, and I'll acknowledge that, but if you're a fan of 3D platformers, or mascot platformers in particularly, and you're looking for something to play, and you've played Mario Odyssey, and New Super Lucky's Tale, and A Hat in Time, I would say to give Balan WonderWorld a chance. It's not going to blow your mind or anything like that, but you will have a fun, good evening, afternoon, whatever you play it. With it, it is a fun game, and it's pretty chilled too. It's not very difficult. But yeah, YouTube, so those are my current thoughts on Balan WonderWorld. Like I said, I don't think I'm going to beat the Switch version. I think I'm going to buy the PS4 version and beat it there, because the frame rate is just, I can't do it. But overall, that's my feelings and whatnot on this game. If you guys like these videos, or liked this video, I guess, let me know in the comments down below, because I don't do this style of video very often, where I just talk about a game that I'm playing through, that I don't really have any intentions of reviewing, but I would be very interested in doing this more often if you guys want me to, but you guys actually have to want me to, because if you don't, I won't do it. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys... Alright, so my camera cut out on me when I was closing my statements and my thoughts on Balan WonderWorld. My camera cut out on me, so I'm gonna wrap this up real fast. You know, if you guys want me to do more videos like this, let me know in the comments below. Like this video, subscribe, all that good stuff, all that nonsense that YouTubers say. And, you know, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.